Hello and welcome to the One Mind Dharma podcast. I am Matthew Sokolov, and if you want to learn more about us, you can visit oneminddharma.com or visit us on YouTube or Instagram at One Mind Dharma. Remember, if you're listening to this in 2025, that we have a New Year's course, Begin Again, coming up. The information's at oneminddharma.com/New Year. And we just got our meditation challenge for free back up. oneminddharma.com/challenge. So today's going to be kind of a short talk. I just wanted to introduce the meditation practice that we're going to be working with and give a little background. I recommend, I try to upload them in order with the talk first and the meditation second, but sometimes the feed gets grabbed in reverse order. But we're going to practice with metta or loving kindness as a concentration practice. And I think that this is something that some people have kind of caught on to, and a lot of people have no idea that metta or any of the heart practices can actually be used as a form of building samadhi or concentration. So I'll start with just a little bit of kind of traditional background from the suttas. There is a sutta called the Samadhi Sutta, and I'll include the links in the show notes. It reads, "Wise and mindful, you should develop immeasurable concentration. That is, concentration based on immeasurable goodwill, compassion, appreciation, and equanimity. When, wise and mindful, one has developed immeasurable concentration, 5 realizations arise right within oneself." Which 5? This concentration is blissful in the present and will result in bliss in the future. This concentration is noble and not connected with the baits of the flesh. This concentration is not obtained by base people. This concentration is peaceful, exquisite, the acquiring of serenity, the attainment of unity, not kept in place by the fabrications of forceful restraint. And I enter into this concentration mindfully, and mindfully I emerge from it. So there's this kind of in a sense, promise that with this concentration from the heart practices, we'll have these things. We'll have some bliss now and in the future. It's a wise or noble concentration that's not connected with flesh or people. It's not obtained by other people or by interacting with other people. It's our own minds. And it's peaceful and serene. And then finally, that there's a component of mindfulness that kind of innately comes with this level of concentration. In the Sankita Sutta, the Buddha recommends goodwill as your awareness release will be developed, pursued, handed the reins, and taken as a basis, given a grounding, steadied, consolidated, and well undertaken. That's how you should train yourself. When you have developed concentration in this way, you should develop this concentration with directed thought and evaluation. You should develop it with no directed thought and a modicum of evaluation. You should develop it with no directed thought and no evaluation. You should develop it accompanied by rapture, not accompanied by rapture. Endowed with a sense of enjoyment, you should develop it endowed with equanimity. So it's not, I don't want to say it's not important to know these suttas, but I'm just pointing out that there's a kind of scriptural basis for practicing metta as a concentration practice. And this last sutta, the second sutta I just read, the Sankita Sutta, really points towards kind of developing the 5 factors of concentration. Really, they're the 5 factors of jhanas, or deeper states of concentration. And we've talked about those before on the podcast. They're applied thought, vitakka, sustained thought or attention, vichara, rapture or piti, happiness or sukha, and one-pointedness or ekaggata. And I'm going to go through those. I often go through those with the example of like the breath or even the ringing of a bowl, but I'm going to go through those factors of concentration as we're going to actually investigate or practice with them in a moment. So the first one, Vitakka or applied thought, is pretty basic. That is the moment that we bring our awareness to the phrases of metta in our head. So as we offer this phrase of loving kindness, may I be happy, Vitakka is placing our attention there. It's pretty obvious uh, that in order to develop concentration, we first need to put our awareness or attention onto something. The second one is sustained thought. And I think for a lot of people, or I've heard in like groups, I've heard from my students, well, if I could do that, then I would be concentrated. For sure. Absolutely. The example I often use is when you ring a singing bowl. That first kind of strike is the Vitakka. It calls your attention. Vichara is sticking with that sound all the way through until it fades out, even noticing the silence after. So with the metta phrases, what vichara looks like, or sustained awareness, is being present through the entirety of the phrase we're offering in our head. I find that it helps to offer the phrase a little more slowly because it prevents me from going on autopilot. But you can find your own rate or how you want to say the phrases. And then to also take note or keep the awareness there for the emptiness or the lack of words in your head. The next factor is piti. It's often translated as rapture or bliss. I don't love either of those terms personally, but I don't have a better English language word. So I often just use the word piti. Like when Elizabeth and I are talking about, we often share, how's your meditation this morning? Oh, it was, the brain mind wasn't very concentrated and it was scattered, and but I felt at ease with it. Or I experienced a lot of piti. Like we often just use that word because I don't know if rapture, bliss totally, maybe it's my own relationship to those words, but I don't know if those totally kind of get the meaning. But piti is this state of kind of energetic happiness or joy that can come from concentration practices. It's often a little bit buzzy at first or energetic. And it feels like good or pleasant. But then we do eventually move into sukha or happiness, which is almost in a way like piti without the same energy, without the excitement. I like to think of piti as like a little bit more excited, and sukha, that we translate as happiness, more as at ease or content even. But we're called to actually cultivate these qualities. And I won't talk about kind of absorption practices as far as the breath goes, but to focus on today's meditation, I find that metta is a great doorway into these sensations. We can't necessarily force piti or sukha to arise. In fact, the traditional teachings on these qualities is actually that they're already present. It's only once we collect the mind and have this sustained thought that we actually begin to feel it or tune into it. So the instruction isn't to, my understanding of the instruction, I should say, is not to cultivate piti or to manifest it, but to tune into it when it arises. And same with sukha, that contentment, to tune into it when it arises. So in metta practice, the way that I often experience this is after, I don't know how many minutes because I'm not looking at the clock usually. Uh, but after however many minutes of practice, some days it's longer than others, I do begin to get this sense of piti that just naturally arises. it can be tempting when the PT arises to um, really lean into it or make that the object of our awareness. It's kind of seductive in that way. And I think there's a place for that. I think in some concentration practices or in some periods as we progress, we can actually use the PT as the object of our awareness. But when we do notice some level of PT or sukha arising, our practice is going to be just to stay with that sustained thought. Stay with the phrases of metta. And then the last factor is one pointedness or ekagata, which is this really collected, fine attention or awareness that is focused completely on the sensation or experience of offering the phrases. The sensation of thinking or in the mind. You might notice other things arising and passing, but there's not really even a hard leaning to hook into them. In kind of deeper states of absorption, you might not even notice other things going on. You might not hear the end bell, for example. But all of this is to say is this is how we're going to practice today. We're going to do a metta meditation using phrases, and we'll work with ourselves and then some loved ones. And we'll really focus on these factors, this applying the thought, the vitakka, the sustained thought or vichara, and then tuning into any piti or sukha that arises and trying to encourage the mind to be one-pointed. So I know that's kind of a lot of info. I like to be practical, so we're going to do the actual practice. And if you have any questions or thoughts about this, please reach out to me, matthew@onemindharma.com. This is an important practice in my own practice. This is something that I've had a lot of students over the years who kind of struggle with concentration and or metta and have found this to be useful. And I've had a lot who prefer breath meditation for concentration and a more heartfelt metta practice, and that's okay. But I want to offer it as it is something that has seemed to reach people over my years teaching.